I want to take it to your other team, the San Francisco 49ers, who we talked about it earlier. I mean, once Eric Armstead signed with the Jacksonville Jaguars, what was the panic meter going on in Richard Sherman's head? And then, we hear throughout the draft, are they going to trade Debo? Are they going to trade Ayuk? Are they going to be able to re-sign Ayuk? And then they go out and draft a wide receiver first round, adding further to the speculation. And I like the receiver, Ricky Purcell, that they drafted. They're comping him to Adam Thielen, and he's going to fit in perfectly with Ayuk
Why do they
and
always
Debo.
got to comp him to the white guy? Why couldn't you comp him to somebody else?
Come on,
you
Rich.
Comp him to the white guy. Come on now. Come on. He's pretty shifty. Like, you couldn't comp him to Diggs. You couldn't comp him to anybody else. He's a different kind of receiver than Diggs, but still, you have to comp him to the white guy.
Oh, they absolutely have to. Richard, what are your thoughts of the Niners coming away after this draft? Is the panic meter dipped down a little bit? Are you still nervous going into the season?
Well, it wasn't, I don't think it was a panic meter. It was just change. Change is always scary, just like the Seattle Seahawks. You're switching head coaches, the new regime, you're making changes. Change is always scary, because it's unknown. And life without Eric Armstead is an unknown. I guess you've had stints throughout the season. You've had games throughout his career where you guys have had to, the San Francisco 49ers have had to play without Eric Armstead, and they've done fine. But they also have seen dips in their run game. They've played worse against the run. They've had less pressure, gotten less sacks, things like that. And I think they tried to address that in a number of ways. I think they might feel like they got some young guys who can step it into the fold and make a difference. But there's still some concern there. Until I see it on the field, until I see the difference, until I see them fill that hole with guys that can produce, and I see the defense, I'm going to have questions. But I like the Purcell pick because it's a luxury pick. The Niners have a great roster. They have a great roster. They don't have any really glaring holes. I think the offensive line is a concern that I would have felt like needed to be addressed, but they picked up some guys that I guess they feel like will fit well in their system. But that's the only hole where you're looking at this team like, this is where we would need to pick a guy. And they clearly didn't see a guy they liked. I think they feel like, man, if they can get the ball down the field, they can get the ball in these guys' hands. Brock Purdy's getting the ball out pretty quick, so they're not feeling as pressed to get offensive line help. In the plays that beat them last year were unblocked guys coming free. It wasn't like they were necessarily beating guys. It was bad reads, bad protection, bad understanding of the scheme that got them beat. And so I like the pick. I think Brandon Ayuk's about to get his contract. He's about to get paid. I don't think he or Debo Samuel sees this as any kind of threat to them. Both of them, once Brandon gets his money, would have gotten paid and be very comfortable with high paid contracts. I think Brock Purdy will have more weapons, and more is always better. Christian McCaffrey's coming back into the fold. They don't have a lot of holes that you could say, man, they need to address this. They need to address this. They got some corners. I mean, they got a corner. They got a safety. They got a D lineman. They got some offensive line help. They touched on a couple different things, a couple different places that they needed to touch on. And so we'll see how it works out. Maybe some of these guys won't even make the roster because it's a tough roster to make.